Welcome to the Savvy Event Planner Podcast, where insightful tips, strategies, tactics, and case studies can help inspire you to engage guests and create successful events. And now, here's your host, Tom Crowell.
In a world that's brimming with content, how can you capture the attention of your audience? How can you continue to stand out? And how can you be a thought leader and create content when there's so many other things on your plate? Well, in this episode, my guest, Christina R. Green, is going to share some tips and ideas that will generate and multiply the effects of your content and drive it home for your audience. So take note. You don't want to miss this, and hang around afterwards because I have a few things that I'm going to share. Ladies and gentlemen, I am on the line with Christina R. Green. Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I brought you here because I found you through an article on the Event Manager blog. How long have you been associated with them?
For about 6 months.
The article that I think really caught my attention was gamification. And when I got a hold of you and we started talking, you started telling me more about the things that you do. And one of those is content marketing. And that's why we have you here today. So let's talk about what content marketing is.
Well, first of all, content marketing is not just content. Some people think because Google has been pushing content so much recently that they just need to slap a blog post up on their website or something like that. It's a lot more advanced than that. There's a lot more thought that goes into it. And one of the things that differentiates content marketing is that 20 years or less ago, if you wanted to create content for your company, you thought about what you wanted to talk about. It was all about you, all about the company, all about what you wanted to vocalize to the rest of the world. Now, it's all about what your audience wants to consume. And you'll hear me probably frequently say read, but content is much more than obviously just posts and things like that. There's video and there's audio and a whole bunch of different areas that you can get into. But I tend to fall back on that read because I'm a little bit of an older fogey, so excuse me, that's where I head. But certainly when I say content, think of it as a broad spectrum.
Okay. While we're at that old fogey stage here, excuse me, I went to your website and I was looking and I read your story. And I usually open up with this, but let's talk a little bit about your background. And I found it interesting that you were a risk-averse introvert.
Yes, I was. I actually started, I wanted to be a writer since I was 7 years old. And everyone that I would talk to about it, from elementary school teachers all the way up, always said something along the lines of, well, you have your head in the clouds. That's an impossibility. A writer, how are you going to make a living doing that? And so I did what all normal writers would do in that situation. I decided to be an economics major in college. So I went to the exact opposite. I went from this very, where you're thinking of all these crazy ideas and plot lines and things like that, to a very regimented study of economics. And there really is a tie-in into content here when I go into it here for a second, but if you'll indulge me.
Please do.
But the one thing that stopped me from graduating with a major in economics was the things that my professors kept saying over and over again. Let's assume the customer is rational. And that's always what got me. I couldn't get there because I knew from my own buying patterns, you don't always make the best decision. I don't mean that from a monetary value. I just mean sometimes something grabs you. You make an impulsive decision or an emotional decision. And that's what really has made content marketing so popular now, is that we are appealing to people's emotions. We as marketers are appealing to people's emotions for the first time ever. There's no trickery involved. We're listening to what they want to hear, we're listening to what they want to consume, and we're giving it to them. But getting back to the bio that you read, you're right. I was a risk-averse introvert. I hit 40
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. The milestone age had to be 29. I know.
Okay, 29. Let's say 29. Let's go with that. I hit 40, and I realized that I was in a job that I only felt so-so about. There were components that I liked, and there were components that I didn't, like every corporate job. I'm sure people can identify with that to a certain extent. And so I decided to go off on my own. And I left a very successful job as a marketer, a content marketer for a software company, and have had my own business for nearly 2 years now, and have really enjoyed it, teaching people about how to use content.
And that's why we have you here. So we're talking about content for event planners. What can the content do for them?
Well, there are several things that it can do. I mean, you can use it to attract attendees to begin with. You know, and people are trying to decide whether they want to come to your event or whether they want to be a part of your organization or anything like that. Frequently what they do is they look at materials and they're looking for that emotional pull, that idea of, these people are like me. I want to be with them because they get me. And so that's one way content marketing can help. It can also, especially for event planners that have long stretches between major conferences, you know, maybe you throw a big event every year and you don't want to lose your audience in between that year. Things pop up on people's calendars and whatnot. It's a way to stay in touch with your audience in between conferences. So you stay on their mind, they stay intrigued, they remember the great times that they had at your previous conference. And it also can, for the people who haven't attended your conference, it can create a velvet rope scenario. And that's, you know, the old, I'm not even sure who coined it. There are a lot of marketers who use that term, but it's the idea of you allow people to see in enough of what's going on at your conference or your event that they're like, oh, wow, that looks great. But you don't let them see so much that they feel like they've been there. It's kind of the movie trailer idea. You know, you can use content as a trailer for your event to entice people to learn more about your organization, your company, or your event. And then you can also use it to establish yourself, your organization, as a thought leader in the industry that you work in. And then the best thing around conferences, you can get people really excited about your speakers and your sessions ahead of time by sharing content that ties into what those people are going to cover during the conference, either something they've produced themselves that they allow you to use, or little baits and leads that you produce that kind of get people thinking about the topics that they're going to be covering in sessions.
You can listen to the entire interview at savvyeventpodcast.com/12 or subscribe to us on iTunes.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Event Planner Podcast at savvyeventpodcast.com.